Hey guys, I hope you're doing good today. So I want to prelude into the functions.py. This is not a Python function, but I want to talk about why functions are so useful. So here I wanted to solve for the final velocity because physics is really cool. And so I have vi, which is my initial velocity. I have my a, which is my acceleration, and t, we'll just say it's 1 second. So notice I just have the simple equation vf equals vi plus a times t. Okay, so if I plug in 5 for VI, right, so I have 5 right here, plug in 5 for VI, 10 for A, and 1 for T, and I click run, I get 15. Now that's great. I come back out, right, you might be wondering, okay, well, like, I'll just use this function, I'll just use this little equation again, right, every time I want to change. Maybe I'll say, okay, it's 10, 10, and 1, and then I'll click run, and I get 20, which is also correct. But you might be thinking, well, it's kind of a big hassle, right? Every time I have to come in here and change these parameters every single time I want to use it. And what happens if my parameters change? What happens if I have two different problems? I have a VI1 and an A1 and a T1. Well, that's kind of what functions works to abstract away and help you solve. So usually a lot of people talk about functions and they'll use these names like parameters and defining your function. First off, I'm going to show you what a function looks like in Python, and then we'll go through and talk about everything. So I'm going to define a function, which I'm going to do with def. That's how I always define a function in Python. Final velocity. And then notice up there I always have these parentheses. Notice how the syntax highlighting kicked in once I had added those parentheses. That's a good thing. That means that your interpreter is recognizing this as a Python function. My parameters are going to be vi, so my initial velocity, a, and t. So that means these are going to be the inputs to my function. Sometimes I'll say input parameters, colon, and then when I click return, notice something. I automatically get this indentation. That is correct. Okay, Python automatically assumes indentation after a function is declared, after the colon, and it matters. If I came out here and started typing, it would not work. Okay, so when I click return, the indentation is correct. I'm going to write vf equals vi plus a, oh, wrong guys, oh, happy face, that's bad, a times t, and then I'm going to click return, and the value I want to return is vf. Okay, so there's our function. Okay, that return statement signifies the end of our function. Now, what does this mean so far? Okay, I've defined a function. I'm saying I want you to find the final velocity given some vi, a, and t. I want you to return vf. Well, that's great. The way that you call your function is I'm going to say vf equals final velocity, and I'm going to say an initial velocity, which is vi. I'm going to call it 5. Acceleration, but I don't know. Let's just say 10. And then t, we'll call it 1. Okay, so I filled in, notice I have vi up here, a and t, and then I have 3 parameters right here, 5, 10, and 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say vf, I'm going to say print vf. I'm going to click run, and I get 15, which is good. Okay, so how did that conduct? So when I call final velocity right here with these parameters, it knows, okay, Kevin wants to use this function, final velocity, with these parameters, and I'm going to run this equation in here. It's going to get vf, and at the end of the function, it's going to return this vf, okay, this final velocity. So when I come in here and name it final velocity 5, 10, and 1, it's going to automatically come in here and put the 5 in right here, the 10 right here for the A, and the 1 for the T. So that's going to be 5 plus 10 times 1, which is 15. So it's going to be 15 right here. And then final velocity with these parameters is going to be equal to 15. And then when I print it, I'm going to get 15. And when I run it, there we go, 15. Now, you might be saying that doesn't seem like all that big of an improvement, right? I had to add this extra def syntax and final velocity and all these parameters. Well, here's where functions come in handy, is right below. Let's say I decided I have another velocity to calculate. Let's call it VF2. Keep it consistent. I can recall the same exact final velocity function, and notice the IDE note recognizes final velocity as a function. And let's say I want to change it to 10, 1. I can't get my 10 straight. There we go, 10, 1. And then let's do print VF2. Why doesn't it give me parentheses? VF2. And I click run. Remember, it's going to give us the first VF and then the second VF. It gives me 15 and then 20. Well, that's great. This final velocity is now an object that Python recognizes that is going to be associated with this function, or this equation, I should say, and it's going to return a VF regardless of the parameters. So you could put in whatever parameters you want, and as long as you run this function right here, it's going to return the VF. So you could use it over and over and over. You could use it in a for loop if you wanted. So that's really the benefit of functions. Hope you have a great day.